Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moments. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of upcoming episode of Soul Land 3 Legend of the Dragon King Part 58 based on novel. So let's start. A wry smile tugged at Long Huantian's lips. Such high praise. Looks like I'll have to see for myself just how amazing these kids are. The two teams stood opposite of each other on the stage, having just introduced themselves. Tang Wulin was astonished to discover that their opponents were all girls. It was his first time greeting a team composed only of girls. During their introduction, Tang Wulin had been intrigued by the near-identical appearance of Zhu Hanyu and Zhu Qian'er. Although they were clearly twin sisters, their contrasting hair colors made for an odd sight. Standing as the spearpoint of her team, Zhu Hanyu stared at Tang Wulin with eyes that were as cold as ice and as unyielding as the plum blossom in winter. She had matured quite well, apart from being unripe, her height barely differed from that of an adult's. The East Sea team seemed tiny in comparison. An unfathomable feeling welled in Zhu Hanyu's heart as she stared at the opposing team. Before the match, their academy's president had repeatedly warned them not to look down on their opponents today. But she just couldn't understand how the three kids before her had an identical winning streak as theirs. Therefore victories almost guaranteed that they had a place in the top 16. Since there were only 8 matches per group, it was nigh impossible for them to not make it into the top 16 now. They are so young though, only 10 years old. Compared to Zhu Hanyu's frigid demeanor, Zhu Qian'er exuded liveliness. She absent-mindedly asked, "Little brother, you're already competing at such a young age?" Tang Wulin's face couldn't help but twitch at her question. "This a competition? We just came here to gain experience." Despite being disgruntled, Tang Wulin beamed at her. He couldn't let his opponent notice his displeasure. Zhu Qian'er said, "How about you guys just concede? It wouldn't look good if we hurt you, people might think we're bullying children." Tang Wulin's smiling expression stiffened. "She's even advising us to surrender?" Ji Yu couldn't bear it anymore and said in a frosty tone, "The victor hasn't been decided yet. We'll see after this match." The referee began counting down. Zhu Hanyu glared at her younger sister before turning to Tang Wulin and nodding. 3, 2, 1, begin. Thus, the match between the two strongest teams in Group 3 began. Tang Wulin's first move was no different from the past. He immediately charged ahead, his hands forming subtle signs behind his back as he shot towards Zhu Hanyu like lightning. Xie was right behind Tang Wulin after seeing the hand signals. His target was Wang Dongqi, however, not Zhu Hanyu. In that moment, the students of Sealand Academy revealed the brilliance of their soul rings. Zhu Hanyu and Wang Dongqi had 3 soul rings, the former had 2 yellow rings and 1 purple, while the latters were all yellow. As for Zhu Qian'er, she only had 2 yellow soul rings. It's just as we had investigated. They have 2 soul elders and 1 soul grandmaster. Their cultivation is enough to crush us. Having already confronted 3-ringed soul masters before, the 3 from Class 0 did not fear them. Only after they had fought would they know what their opponents truly amounted to. Zhu Hanyu stood her ground in the face of Tang Wulin's charge. She raised her right hand, her 3 soul rings rising in sync as a thin sleet of icy light surrounded her body. The arena's temperature dropped as waves of glacial mist rolled off her body and her complexion slowly whitened until it was like snow. On the other hand, Zhu Qian'er's aura was different. The two were clearly born from the same mother, were of the same age, and most likely twins, yet not only was Zhu Qian'er's cultivation lower than her elder sister's, her martial soul was different too. What appeared in her hand was not cold air, but a green ball of light bursting with vitality. "What is that?" Tang Wulin was surprised by the sight of these 2 martial souls. He wasn't the same ignorant kid that was newly arrived from glory-bound city anymore. After studying and battling under Wu Zhangkeng's guidance, his knowledge had deepened. A single glance was all it took for him to discern that the twins were rarely seen elemental soul masters. Zhu Hanyu had the ice element, specifically the ice spirit. On the other hand, Zhu Qian'er had the wood element, similarly, it was called wood spirit. However, wood-type martial souls were much rarer than ice types. These 2 sisters should be twins, but their martial souls are so different. What a spectacle! It seems that their hair colors are different due to their martial souls. Sun with rays. In Box 1. Hanyu and Tiana are twin sisters, but their differences were apparent since the moment they were born. Despite their parents being average commoners without soul power, their children were incredibly gifted. Hanyu has innate full soul power and the ice spirit martial soul. She's the most gifted student we've had in many years. Tiana is a bit less gifted, she only had rank 8 innate soul power. Still, she has the even rarer wood spirit constitution. Furthermore, the sisters have the mental connection of twins. Zhong Zhenpeng explained the background of his two-star pupils. Long Huanqian sighed in appreciation. They really are excellent talents. No wonder Zhenpeng was so confident in his request. Although the strength of a soul master was directly tied to their soul power, quite often it was the martial soul that was more important. A 3-ringed soul master with an ordinary martial soul could never catch up to a 3-ringed soul master with a peak-level martial soul, the gap was too enormous. These two girls were not ordinary by any means. Sun with rays. On the competition stage, Zhu Hanyo's gaze clashed with Tang Wulin's. She slowly pressed her right palm forward, sending a rippling wave of misted ice at him, obscuring his vision. He could just barely make out her unmoving figure within the mist. Zhu Tiana's first soul ring lit up while a soft green light appeared on the ground. Vines grew from the light in an instant and followed her pointed finger to attack Tang Wulin. It's bind. Tang Wulin didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It was simply impossible for him to not recognize it for what it was. They were both plant-type soul masters, but Zhu Tiana's wood spirit was far more powerful than his blue-silver grass. Her bind was like an array of vines piercing toward him. Although Tang Wulin was shaken, he quickly adapted to the situation. His purple soul ring rose from beneath his feet and commanded his own blue-silver grass to weave into a protective screen in the air. Tang Wulin charged ahead, his blue-silver grass shield slanted so that it deflected the onslaught of vines. He quickly advancing upon her. Unperturbed, Zhu Hanyu activated up her first soul ring. White suddenly dominated Tang Wulin's vision, a wall of ice formed right before him. Zhu Hanyu's timing was impeccable, the wall appeared just as Tang Wulin was about to remove the screen's protection. He would slam into it an instant later. There was nothing else Tang Wulin could do. Although his speed was explosive, his control over it couldn't possibly compare with Xie Xie. To the SEAL and Academy team's surprise, Tang Wulin didn't show any intention of slowing down, rather, he increased his speed. He raised both his arms and lowered his head, crashing straight into the ice wall. Bang! Tang Wulin completely shattered the ice wall and continued his charge at Zhu Hanyu. This guy? Zhu Hanyu stared dazedly at the sight. This was the first time she had seen someone break through her ice wall through sheer physical strength. Just what kind of freak is he? Tang Wulin was just 15 meters away from her. It would take him no more than an instant to reach her. Zhu Tiana moved next to her sister, a sweet smile gracing her lips contrasting with her sister's unchanging mask of indifference. A strange energy emanated from their bodies. Zhu Tiana's first soul ring lit up as she raised her hand. Vines appeared from beneath the two sisters, wrapping around their legs and waist before rapidly dragging them backwards, instantly opening a wide gap between them and Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin reacted without thinking. Blue-silver grass shot out as he activated bind and charged ahead whilst he himself followed behind. To one side Xie Xie had reached Wang Dongqi. Rather than retreating, Wang Dongqi stepped forward to welcome him with a newly manifested sword in hand. Silver lightning ran in jagged lines along the length of the sword's violet blade, enshrouding it with an aura of magnificence. A simple slash of her sword sent a bolt of silver lightning at Xie Xie. Xie Xie gathered strength within his legs and forcefully leapt off the ground and into the air, evading the lightning bolt while simultaneously closing the distance between them. Unlike Wu Zhangkong's Skyfrost sword and Yi Xinglan's Star God sword, Wang Dongqi's Thunder Flash sword used soul power to enhance its lightning attribute soul skills rather than the sword itself. She raised her Thunder Flash sword high into the air, calling down a storm of lightning snakes around her. This was her second soul skill, Chaotic Dance of the Silver Snakes. Wang Dongqi looked down upon Xie Xie. Although he had 2 rings at the young age of 10, she felt he couldn't possibly compare with her. 3 rings was a major milestone for soul masters. It meant that one had reached the middle level of a soul master, and often the 3rd soul skill brought a huge power boost. She had decided to use Chaotic Dance of the Silver Snakes the moment Xie had moved against her, since this soul skill specialized in restraining agility-type soul masters. As an assault-type soul master and with her Thunder Flash Sword's characteristics, she was most effective at restraining agility-type soul masters. Not only did lightning have explosive power, its paralysis effect could cripple the speed of an agility-type soul master. The lightning blossomed into a flower of silver light that instantly swallowed Xie. Despite not having much firepower, if Chaotic Dance of the Silver Snake struck and paralyzed its opponent, it wouldn't take much effort for Wang Dongqi to finish them off. She had yet to be defeated by an agility-type soul master of the same rank as her. Their defeat was guaranteed the moment she was their opponent. A smile had already settled on her lips. Her team's victory would be assured once she defeated her opponent. She wasn't worried for the Zhu sisters at all. After all, the 2 were the core strength of the team. But at that instant, a smile stiffened. Just as the lightning snakes were about to strike him, Xie's figure wobbled, then duplicated into a multitude of ghostly shadow reflections that flickered forward. Despite the large range of Chaotic Dance of the Silver Snakes, it was not without gaps. The erratic bolts of lightning constantly changed positions, creating gaps that Xie took advantage of, and, with the sway of his body, he evaded the onslaught of lightning snakes and continued to advance on Wang Dongqi. How can this be? That isn't a soul skill. She hadn't seen Xie's soul ring light up. She was utterly flabbergasted. She could understand if he had used a soul skill to protect himself, but she couldn't comprehend this situation. Why did his body suddenly become so illusionary? Isn't his martial soul a dagger? How could she have known that what Xie was using right now was the Tang sect's Ghost Shadow Perplexing track? Just as they had researched the East Sea team, the East Sea team had researched them. Familiarity with one's opponent could mean the difference between victory and defeat in battle. Tang Wulin had only let Xie take on Wang Dongqi after thoroughly understanding her. While Wang Dongqi's lightning certainly was highly effective against agility-type soul masters, that was still dependent on how fast her opponent was. Xie had displayed spectacular combat skill the first time Tang Wulin had met him, so one could only imagine how strong he was after a year of Wu Zhangkong's guidance and learning the Tang sect's Ghost Shadow Perplexing track. Xie's movements was like the drifting clouds and flowing water when using Ghost Shadow Perplexing track. Wang Dongqi couldn't keep track of him, but neither did he keep track of her. In his eyes, she was just a sitting duck. Chaotic Dance of the Silver Snakes had a large range, but was rife with holes. It was worthless in the face of true speed. Wang Dongqi's eyes rolled with panic. When Xie arrived before her in the blink of an eye, she immediately stabbed her Thunder Flash sword into the ground and activated her 3rd soul ring. Silver light erupted from her body. Xie instinctively backflipped, retreating from her and delaying his assault. Just as he had expected, lightning snakes exploded from her sword an instant after he backed away. She had used Chaotic Dance of the Silver Snakes once more. It was impossible to dodge in the air, well, at least at their level. If Xie hadn't called off his attack, he would have been paralyzed by those snakes. Golden light gathered around Xie and a second later, he unleashed his light dragon storm, spurring his body to fly backwards. Streaks of silver lightning chased after him but instantly dissipated upon contact with his light dragon storm. Xie twirled the light dragon dagger in his hand after landing a distance away, taunting Wang Dongqi. Her expression turned unsightly. In order to protect herself just now, she had been forced to use Chaotic Dance of the Silver Snakes twice and Thunder Flash Ring once. The consumption of those 3 soul skills was incomparably larger than Xie's single soul skill use, and even though her soul power surpassed Xie's by far, the amount used was nothing to laugh at. Xie gripped his light dragon dagger and slowly circled Wang Dongqi. Not a single trace of anxiety could be found in his demeanor. Tang Wulin had only given him one mission, to keep Wang Dongqi busy, and if he had an opportunity, defeat her. If he didn't, then keeping her isolated was enough. While he kept her busy here, Tang Wulin found out that his bind was useless. Zhu Qian'er pointed at the strands of blue-silver grass, aiming for her, shooting a group of green lights at it. A strange sensation suddenly washed over Tang Wulin, as if his blue-silver grass had been enveloped in a warm embrace that gently stole his control away from him. His sea of blue-silver grass went limp in the air and fell onto the ground, too lifeless to attack anymore. This is attribute suppression. Tang Wulin understood what he faced in an instant. It had always been his Golden Dragon King suppressing other soul masters and soul beasts before now. He hadn't expected that a day would come when he would be suppressed instead. Even though his Golden Dragon King bloodline had transformed his blue-silver grass, in the end, it was still a wood-attributed existence. His bloodline had certainly elevated it to much greater heights, but against the Zhu Qian'er who had the wood spirit martial soul and a higher soul power than him, being suppressed was inevitable. Even his 1,000-year soul ring could do nothing to overturn this suppression. Zhu Qian'er smiled sweetly at Tang Wulin, while Zhu Hanyo's pointed a finger at him, summoned giant icicles from the ground to form an ice prison around him. Not only did it restrict his movements, it besieged him on all sides. Zhu Hanyo's first soul skill was Ice Wall, a second icicle. Her icicles, however, weren't ordinary, they were powerful variant icicles. There were numerous ways she could use them. The icicles were stronger than the ice wall from before, forcing Tang Wulin back when he charged at them. While he struggled to escape this icy prison, cold air circulated and invaded his body. Although his body was far tougher than an average person, he wasn't immune to the cold and was soon shivering non-stop. Those sisters work so well together. Furthermore, they are clearly still going easy on me. I would be impaled by icicles rather than imprisoned if Zhu Hanyu wasn't. Tang Wulin didn't dare dawdle. He summoned a strand of blue-silver grass to lift him out of the prison. Yet at that moment, the icicles lengthened until they intersected and cut off his last escape route. A second control. This is clearly a second controlled soul skill. She is very skillful, and she must have high spiritual power. It can't be any lower than mine. It seems like we can't hold back. This Sealand team is far stronger than we estimated. Guu. Tang Wulin shouted as golden scales rippled across his right arm, his hand transforming into a dragon claw before he punched the ice before him. Bang! The icicle shattered into fine powder under the crushing effect of his dragon claw. Tang Wulin rushed out of the opening in the next moment. Although his blue-silver grass was suppressed by Zhu Qian'er, it wasn't absolute. He withdrew the remaining blue-silver grass, only letting a single golden strand shoot straight towards Zhu Qian'er while he followed closely behind. Hearing Tang Wulin's shout, Guu finally made her move. Green light enveloped her and she flew over to him, her first soul ring lighting up in the meantime before her fingers twisted to summon a fireball that blazed toward the two sisters. Regardless of whether it be wood spirit or ice spirit, both were subdued by fire. Elemental type? And she seems to have more than one? Zhu Qian'er and Zhu Hanyu were both startled by the sight of the green light around Guu's feet and the fireball arcing toward them. As elemental-type soul masters themselves, it was only natural they could recognize another elemental-type soul master. They began to tremble at the realization that she could use both wind and fire. Fire and ice were opposites, mutually subduing one another. Zhu Qian'er's wood spirit, however, was powerless against fire. Only Zhu Hanyu had a chance of fighting back. An icicle half a meter long suddenly appeared and clashed with the fireball. Cobalt and crimson light exploded from their collision, the two were evenly matched. Zhu Qian'er was not idle either. A vine flew toward Tang Wulin in an attempt to bind him. Her second soul ring had not dimmed the entire time, continually suppressing Tang Wulin. Her first soul skill was Thorny Vines and her second was Wood Spirit. Wood Spirit was a support-type soul skill that enhanced her other soul skills while suppressing wood attribute soul beasts and martial souls. As long as her opponent's wood attribute did not surpass hers, they would suffer from its effects. Thus, in a sense, Tang Wulin was destined to be suppressed by Zhu Qian'er since birth. Zhu Qian'er's Thorny Vines, after being enhanced by her Wood Spirit, had doubled in thickness and were now as wide as a child's arm. Inch-long thorns jutted out, so sharp they were sure to torment anyone caught in it. Tang Wulin recalled his golden dragon claw. its consumption was simply too great. He also couldn't use his blue-silver grass under the effects of the wood spirit suppression, so the single strand of golden blue-silver grass was his last hope. The strand of grass slammed into the ground in a flash of golden light, its rebounding energy sending Tang Wulin high into the air as he evaded the thorny vine's attack. "Still want to run, huh?" A beautiful smile blossomed on Zhu Qian's lips as the thorny vine swayed on the ground. She believed that it was impossible for Tang Wulin to evade her attacks in the air. Yet at that moment a green light enveloped him, slowing his descent. In the next instant, an icicle flew under his foot. Though this icicle was far smaller than Zhu Hanyo's, it was more than enough to act as a foothold for Tang Wulin. He pushed off the ice step and shot down toward Zhu Hanyu. 7 fireballs blinked into existence around him at the same time, following his descent. Gu did not pause for a single moment, fireball after fireball flew out without an end in sight. With soul power ranked in the 20s, her fiery assault utterly subdued Zhu Hanyu and gave her no room for distractions. The golden dragon claw appeared once more. Even if he faced another wall of ice or an icicle, Tang Wulin had no intention of dodging. He would charge right through and defeat Zhu Hanyu first. The 3-ring Zhu Hanyu was their largest threat. Zhu Hanyu frowned as she felt the pressure of the incoming aerial assault. She hadn't expected their 3 10-year-old opponents would be so troublesome. They had researched Tang Wulin, understood his abilities, and formulated tactics to take him down. However, she was shocked that Xie could actually single-handedly keep Wang Dongqi occupied. In fact, he even seemed to be in the advantageous position. Then there was Ji Yu, the biggest surprise of the trio. In the short time she made her moves, she had used 3 different elements. Although they couldn't tell what her soul skill was, the synergistic effect between those 3 elements was enough to turn the tide. At the very least, it was enough to bring both sides back to balance. They were already well aware of how dangerous Tang Wulin's golden dragon claw was. With him almost upon her and having an entourage of fireballs behind him, Zhu Hanyu knew she would lose if she didn't reveal her cards. Her purple soul ring lit up, instantly transforming her aura as the mist clinging to her body congealed into an icy blue skin. Waves of absolute cold rolled off of her. Ice spirit. First was Zhu Qian's wood spirit that could completely oppress Tang Wulin, and now Zhu Hanyu revealed a 1000-year ice spirit. Similar to wood spirit, it was an elemental amplification soul skill. The difference between 100-year and 1000-year was unfathomable, however, not to mention that this was actually her 3rd soul skill. A giant ice wall erected in front of her the same moment she activated her 3rd soul skill. The fireballs smashed into the wall and were extinguished effortlessly, but Tang Wulin crashed into it resolutely. He punched the wall with his golden dragon claw so hard that it embedded inside. Cracks ran along the surface, but the wall didn't shatter this time. Sharp shards of ice formed around Zhu Hanyu. She felt humiliated to think that a mere 10-year-old child had forced her to use her 3rd soul skill. Strengthened by ice spirit, her icicles were now no less than 1 meter in length and infinitely colder and sharper than before. She smacked her palm on the ice wall in front of her. Tang Wulin felt his body tremble and shouted in alarm. He hastily circulated his soul power to defend himself, and in the next second the ice wall exploded, sending him flying backward. Tang Wulin had faced a 3-ringed soul master before, but only now did he understand how dreadful a powerful 3-ringed soul master was. Freezing air drilled into his body, his blood sluggish from the cold. Explosive energy ran along his veins. If it wasn't for his sturdier-than-normal body, he would have already lost consciousness. Shards from the ice wall shot toward him while icicles rained upon Gu. When Gu and Xie saw that Tang Wulin was sent flying, they both cried out. While Xie's was filled with astonishment, Gu's was fueled with rage. An eerie glint flashed in Gu's eyes before she disappeared in a silver flash, only to reappear next to Tang Wulin. The icicle shower hit nothing but air. This is... Zhu Hanyu froze for a moment. After all, she still lacked battle experience. And in that momentary pause, the icicles escaped her range of secondary manipulation. They continued onward unguided until they shattered against the arena's barrier so hard that it rippled. Fuming with anger, Gu's two soul rings lit up. She clasped her hands together in front of her chest, and a fireball blazed into existence before her. Green ribbons of light swirled around it and merged together as Gu's hands moved in circles. Fire and wind were complementary. Her wind fed the fire until it turned into a giant flaming tornado. This firestorm was only 1 meter in height, but as elementalists themselves, the Ju sisters could sense the surrounding wind and fire elements converging into the tornado. It quickly grew, and a few seconds later, its height already exceeded 2 meters. She comprehends the element's heart. The always smiling Ju Tiana finally lost her composure as she cried out in alarm. This element's heart was only significant to elemental-type soul masters. If they wanted to gain true power, then they had to understand the heart of the element they controlled. An element's heart was its essence, and as long as one grasped it, not only could one draw upon the power within themselves, they could also tap into the elemental power found in the atmosphere. It was an ability that allowed one's strength to reach beyond their soul power. The strong and the weak were separated by whether one had comprehended the element's heart. Naturally, if one called upon power beyond one's control, it could possibly devour one instead. And it was for this reason that spiritual power was absolutely crucial to elemental-type soul masters. The better control one had, the less likely one would be devoured by one's own element. In a sense, Ju Hanyo's I spirit and Ju Tiana's wood spirit both enhanced their control over the elements. However, they were still a long way away from understanding the element's heart. The only way it was possible for Gu's whirlwind of fire to continue growing when she clearly hadn't fed its soul power was if she had comprehended the element's hearts and summoned the surrounding elemental power to feed the firestorm. Just how old is she? How can she already understand the element's heart? And 2 of them at that? This is unbelievable. Quick! We need to act. Ju Hanyu was the first to recover from her shock. They both knew just how terrifying the might of the element's heart was. If she happened to lose control, then calamity would befall everyone on the stage. No one knew whether Gu could control it. In most instances, a soul master who has comprehended the element's heart would sever their connection with the elemental energy just before they reached the limit of their control to avoid being devoured, but Gu was only 10 years old. They didn't dare gamble with her. Ju Hanyu extended her right hand while Ju Tiana reached out with her left hand. The moment the two grasped hands, a change came over them. An azure figure twinkled behind Ju Hanyu while an emerald figure descended behind Ju Tiana and embraced them. In that instant, their aura of power soared to astonishing heights. At the same time, all of the spectators in the boxes stood up in alarm. This included Box 7's Wu Zhongkong and Shen Yi, and Box 1's Long Huantian and Zhong Shenpeng. Even though they were not in the same boxes, invariably, all of them were stunned beyond words. No one had high expectations for this 3 versus 3 match originally, but it now proved to be too shocking for anyone to comprehend. Wu Zhongkong had known that Tang Wulin and the others' opponents were incredibly powerful the moment the match started. In addition to having 2 3-ringed soul masters, the Sealand team's combat experience was leaps and bounds ahead of any of their previous opponents. Moreover, there were 2 elemental-type soul masters in that team. Tang Wulin's tactics proved effective as the match progressed. It was crucial that Xie Xie kept Wang Dongqi occupied, otherwise, they would have to deal with a powerful assault-type soul master whose Thunderflash sword had some control properties. In that situation, the 2 elemental-type soul masters could battle with their peak performance. What truly left Wu Zhongkong speechless, however, was how arrogant Tang Wulin was. He hadn't let Gu act in the beginning in order to conserve her strength, and it wasn't until he was suppressed that he had called her in. They had underestimated Ju Hanyo's strength, but Gu's comprehension of the element's heart had both Wu Zhongkong and Shen Yi gaping. Shen Yi nearly demanded Wu Zhongkong to hand Gu over to her right then and there. Any elemental-type soul master who understood the element's heart was a rarely found genius, not to mention the number of different elements Gu wielded. Even if her soul skills couldn't affect an element directly, it didn't matter since she comprehended the element's heart. She had definitely grasped the heart of both fire and wind, making her a once-in-a-lifetime genius. However, their surprise didn't end there. Ju Hanyu, backed into a corner by the firestorm, revealed her trump card. A bizarre scene unfolded behind them when she and her sister joined hands, and all the powerful spectating experts quickly realized what this was. The rarest and most powerful ability in the world of Soul Masters, a martial soul fusion skill. Moreover, it was a dual-element soul fusion skill. Even at a federal-level tournament, this would still be an astonishing sight. Yet, to think it appeared in the Sky Sea Alliance Tournament's Junior Division's 3-man event, a match that everyone expected to be lackluster. Meanwhile, Long Huanqian finally understood why Zhong Zhenpeng was so confident in his request. No wonder he's so self-assured. Disregarding the soul fusion skill's effects, the very fact that the two sisters could use this skill made them worthy of the 2 inner court examination quotas. Even if Sky Sea City ruled like a tyrant, it wouldn't dare overlook such talent. After all, the prosperity of the Sky Sea Alliance as a whole was still in their interests. If these two sisters made it into Shrek's inner court, then the Sky Sea Alliance would be showered with honor and glory, although the Sealand Academy would benefit the most from this as they would directly receive an inner court examination quota in the future. The Sky Sea Alliance's status would also rise within the world of Soul Masters. At that same time, Long Huanqian took note of the 3 kids from East Sea Academy. These brats are so tough. Even though they might not have a soul fusion skill, that girl's elemental control is spectacular. Is that growing tornado really the work of a 2-ringed soul master? Zhong Zhenpeng stared wide-eyed. It's too early to reveal your soul fusion skill. Although he was confident that his team would win the championship, he was still amazed by the East Sea team's ability. He had originally thought Tang Wulin was the strongest on the team, but now he knew that it was Gu Sun with rays. On the stage, Zhu Hanyu and Zhu Qian'er began to sparkle as if the two were spirits blossoming with radiance, plunging their surroundings into a world of cold. This video will end here.